Hey guys, I'm here today to review the much talked about A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Now, before I read this book, I was like, there's no way I'm going to review it because there's been loads of reviews and it's been talked about to death. But I have vastly different opinions to everybody else who's read it. Well, not everybody else, but most of the people who I've seen review it. So I thought it would be interesting to review it. So I'm going to do a bit of this video where it's spoiler free, so if you haven't read it I will not spoil anything. And then I'm going to do some spoilery stuff, which I don't often do, but I feel so passionate about this novel that I definitely need to do that. So this might be a long video, so you might want to get a drink or some sweets or something. So I feel like before I talk any further about this book, I need to preface this review with several things. Firstly, if you completely adore this book, which I know so many people do, and they had a real emotional connection with it, and it's one of their favourite books of all time. So if you're one of those people, and if you find it difficult to hear a book you love be slated, then I would just say don't watch this video, because that's completely fine. I know some people don't like watching reviews on books they completely adored, where they get ripped to shreds, which is pretty much what I'm going to do. So if you don't want to watch, then I'd say now go, because I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not really going to attempt to put this nicely because I'm so annoyed. The second thing I'm going to say is sort of relates to that, is that I'm so annoyed I probably will swear in this video. So if you don't like bad language, then again you might want to not watch the video. Another thing is that this book really brought the bitchiness in me out, and so I'm going to be I'm going to be mean. So if again you don't like watching reviews like that, then maybe don't watch. Essentially, if you're going to be like, you know, if you're going to find this difficult to watch, then I'm telling you now, just don't watch it. There's no point putting yourself through it. So I'm going to put the book down because it is big, too big. One of the complaints. Okay, so I haven't planned this review in any way, so it might be a bit slapdash, and I will probably talk really fast because I tend to do that when I get passionate or annoyed or angry or aggravated, which this book made me feel all of those. So very briefly, this book came out last year. It is around 720 pages. It's the author's second novel, and it was longlisted and then shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. It has been spoken about everywhere. It is one of the massive literary fiction books which everybody was speaking about, and I know so many people adore it, be they booktubers or like professional book reviewers, or evidently some of the judges for the literary awards. So lots of people truly adore this book. Okay, so if you've been living under a rock maybe and you haven't been watching booktube and you don't know what this book is about, then very simply, it follows four friends who live in New York. It follows them from around their mid-20s to I think around their 50s, and it follows the friendship they have with one another and the lives they lead and the people they become. And it centres around one of the friends, whose name is Jude, who has suffered a lot of horrible things in his childhood, and this really affects his life for the rest of the novel, and really affects everyone else's life around him for the rest of the novel. And so that's essentially what it's about. So firstly, I just want to address the fact that lots of people said this book is horrific and it has lots of really upsetting things in it. So again, without spoiling anything, I will say that the only thing I think that, well, you know, it depends on what your level of being sort of appalled is. I've got a pretty strong stomach and I can read stuff like this. I'm pretty much okay with everything other than needles. I'm not a fan of needles. But yeah, so I felt like this book went places where it told you some things have happened to this person, but it didn't really give you them in graphic detail. So it's not like you get a 3-page scene of like, and then this happened. It's not really like that. You get told this is what happened to me, but it's not like explicit detail. So it's, you know, there are worse books is what I'm trying to say. So the only thing I will say that is, I think was very explicit, is the self-harm in this book. There are a lot of self-harm scenes which I would say were like explicit. So if that's something, you know, that you don't want to read about, then I would say avoid this book, because it is, those scenes are explicit. So this is the non-spoilery stuff. Okay, this is my issues with it. I love long books, I love literary fiction, I love character studies, I love books that span decades, I love all those things. So when this book first started being spoken about, I was like, I'm gonna love it, so there's no point in rushing to it because I know it's gonna be a favourite book and it's gonna be great. And then it got more and more hyped, and I started to get a little bit concerned, but still not really. And then I saw Jen from Jen Campbell do a sort of Man Booker shortlist video where she discussed all the books in the shortlist, and she discussed the fact that she really didn't like A Little Life. And I sort of felt quite good about that, because I thought it's good to have, you know, a bit of negative to go with all the positive, so it sort of evened it out a bit. So I still went into the book thinking I was going to really enjoy it, but I didn't go into the book, I think, with unfair expectations. So I didn't go into this book with a really biased view so that I'd feel disappointed. I think I went into this book with a pretty open mind, so I don't think that reflects my opinions at all, to be honest. So I have so many issues with this book that it's going to be difficult to discuss it all properly. And if you guys disagree with me, that's completely fine, because everybody has different opinions. So anything I say in this video isn't an attack on people who enjoyed this book or love this book, and I don't think you're any less of a reader or any less knowledgeable than me or have worse taste than me. I just think we saw different things in it and we disagree, and it's as simple as that, and that's okay. So I thought this book was vulgar, overwrought, pretentious, melodramatic, over-dramatised. I felt like it purposely used really upsetting dramatic things to try and pull the reader in and get an emotional response, so you felt like you cared more than you might have done otherwise. I felt like the character development was incredibly poor with Jude, apart from knowing the things he likes doing and the things he's been through and the self-harm he does to himself. What else do you know about the guy? Not much. All you know about him is how much he hates himself. I don't feel like I know the sort of person Jude would be if I met him. You find out about the careers of all of their random friends, which is completely unnecessary. Like, you get 70 pages into the book before anything really happens. It's almost like 10 pages of a normal book, and I'm completely okay with lots of detail, but even I was thinking, this is a bit weird, like, why are we finding all this out? This is a bit unnecessary. And then you get 70 pages and you start finding some stuff out, and everything just takes too long. Everything just takes way too long. This book could be cut in half, and I think that whilst I love long books, I think if a book feels too long, then it should have been edited down, because you shouldn't feel that. It shouldn't feel too long, because you should be loving the process, and I wasn't. I don't think it's well written at all. I didn't think there were any passages that I thought were beautiful, or I don't understand it. And any passages that probably I think the people would say, oh, these are really beautiful, like there's a lot of sort of metaphorical passages, I thought they were just laughable. I rolled my eyes and sighed so many times throughout this book. It was the writing style was so ridiculous and flamboyant and pretentious and just awful. Like, it was bad. Like, I don't even think I can say, well, at least she can write, because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it at all, which is a real shame, to be honest. Okay, so I found a little bit of the really heavily metaphorical writing style to read to you. It's difficult for me to choose a section that truly illustrates it, that won't give away some of Jude's intentions, so I've chosen this bit, but trust me, there are some worse bits than this, and this is just a tiny segment. Like, this goes on and on and on, and we come back to the hyenas a lot. The hyenas were still chasing him, but now he could see very far in the distance a house with an open door, and he knew that once he had reached that house he would be safe and everything that pursued him would fall away. They didn't like it, of course. They could see the door as well, and they knew he was about to elude them, and every day the hunt got worse, the army of things chasing him stronger and louder and more insistent. It's like, it's the sort of thing you read when you go to a psychiatrist's office and they have brochures on the coffee table saying, picture a house and picture, it's just bollocks. It's just, I just laughed. Oh, I must be a bad person, but I don't get it. I don't get, like, they're the only sort of lyrical bits we get, and they're badly done. They're like bad. So to end the sort of non-spoilery section, I think it's too long. I think the character development is shite. I think, like, without giving anything away, the Jude's past is ridiculous. It wouldn't be possible. Like, it's so ridiculous, and therefore I couldn't truly follow the novel, because I felt like I could see Hanya Yanagihara. Like, the whole time I was reading, she was present, going, oh, now I'm going to do this and you're going to be really upset and you're going to cry, oh god, you're going to connect to the characters so much. Why can't I connect to the characters because you wrote them well? Why do I have to connect to them because horrible things happen to them? It's bad. Like, I've read books that do this and they do it excellently well and the character is well developed, but instead Hanya Yanagihara went, look, I can't really develop these characters very well, so what I'm going to do is just add 50% more shit on them, and then everyone will, like, really like them and pity them. it was just a pity party. It was bad. So I wouldn't say to you don't read it, because you might really enjoy it, but I thought it was bad, and I feel really sad that so many people love it, even though everyone's obviously allowed their opinion. But I feel really sad about it, because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I feel like she's cheated people somehow. So that's the end of the non-spoilery section of this rant video, I guess, is what it is effectively. So if you have not read this book and you want to, and you don't want to be spoiled, then stop watching now. If you have read the book and you don't mind being spoiled, then you can carry on. And also if you don't plan to read the book, or you plan to read it but you don't care if you know the end, then carry on watching. So I'm going to do this until I'm going to spoil things. Okay, now I'm going to spoil things. Let's just go through this. And if you don't like horrible things happening to children, then maybe don't watch this either, because I'm going to be mean about it. But okay, he's left at a monastery as a baby. Fair enough, people give children away. The priests there abuse him. Fine, that happens, it definitely happens. One of the priests then takes him away and starts selling him as a sex slave when he's around 9 years old. That's completely believable, yeah, like the priest was obviously grooming him, fine. This happens for several years until he's around 15, and then the police barge in and save him, and he gets put in a children's home where all the counsellors then, well not all, but several other counsellors then rape him. By this point you're thinking, this is getting a bit, you know, fair enough, he's in a system where it's not an excellent system and bad things happen to people, but this is, you know, a lot of people by this point have abused this kid. But okay, I can believe this. Then he escapes, and every single fucking truck driver who picks him up wants to pick him up so they can have sex with him. He's 15 years old. Now I'm not saying that people wouldn't see him at a petrol station and think he's a prostitute. Maybe they would, I don't know. But I don't believe that every single person who offered him a lift would have that in their mind. I'm sure that one of the people that offered him a lift would have been a genuinely nice person, or a woman, or somebody with a family, or just a fucking normal person. Like, it's ridiculous. There's no way that every single truck driver in the US is a paedophile, obviously. So why did every single truck driver in this book happen to be a paedophile? It's ridiculous. And then he collapses at a petrol station because he has a sexually transmitted disease, and he wakes up in a house where there's this other paedophile who happens to be able to cure this sexually transmitted disease so he can have more sex with him, but also happens to have a basement where he can lock people down there so he can abuse them for as long as he likes. And this is ridiculous. There is no way that many things to do with sexual abuse could happen to one person. There is no way that every single person he came across for the first 16 years of his life were paedophiles. This book leads you to believe that every single man in the US is a paedophile. If that's the case, then fucking hell, why does anybody live there? It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And I know that in articles, Hanya Yanagihara has said that she wanted the book to be exaggerated to the extreme because she wanted to really confront what a person could go through and what a body could cope with and all that stuff. But there's a point you can go to where, fair enough, you're pushing it a bit far and you're seeing how far you can go, and then there's a point when it gets to the point where it's like a soap opera and it's laughable, and it was laughable, and I shouldn't have been laughing at a child being abused, but that sounds horrendous, but I genuinely couldn't believe that we were supposed to believe that and still want to carry on reading and still care about Jude, because by that point he was no longer a character. By that point he was this empty paper thing that Hanya Yanagihara was making walk around the story with all the abuse piled on him so that we could empathise, so that we as a reader could pity him and feel for him. And that was all it was, and it was so transparent. And this is the thing I don't get, and everybody's allowed an opinion, but I've seen so many reviews where people say they feel like the characters are really real to them and they felt so genuine and they loved them. I could not understand that. I didn't connect to any of them. I thought they were all poorly written and poorly developed, and I just didn't get it. I don't get it. It's ridiculous that people get, like, there are so many books out there that deal with all these horrible things, that deal with them well, that do them excellently, and this book does them a disservice. This book, I felt, did all the people who have suffered these horrible things a disservice, because Hanya Yanagihara went, right, all these people who've been through that, I'm just going to exaggerate it, because then people are going to buy this book because they're going to be so emotionally connected to it. And she's made a killing. She's made a shit ton of money because she's exaggerated horrible, horrible experiences. It's ridiculous. So there's that. And then maybe, possibly, I could have forgiven it if it was well written or shorter, but it wasn't. It was badly written, so badly written and too long. And also, like, this is more spoilers, but if you were friends or the adopted father of somebody like Jude, when something horrible happened to him, why would you keep it a secret from the other people who loved him? For example, when his horrible boyfriend beats him up and does horrible things to him, why does his adopted father and his doctor, who's a very good friend of his, not tell Willem, his best friend? Why do they hide it from him? Fuck Willem, I don't give a fuck if he's on a film shoot. If the person you love more than anyone else in the world is going through a horrible thing, you wouldn't care if you were on a film shoot. You would say to them, something horrific is happening to somebody I love and I cannot be here. Fuck them. It's ridiculous that the whole story, all these characters allowed these things to happen to somebody they supposedly loved so much so that the story could continue. And again, I could see the author, because it was so obvious that that happened so she could carry on exaggerating it and so it could go on and on and on for years. It wouldn't happen if you knew somebody who harmed themselves as much as that, who had been through such horrific things, even if you didn't know the details. If they said to you, leave me alone, I need to be left alone right now, you would not leave them alone. You would say, I'm going to stay, and you can hit me and you can scream at me, you can say horrible things to me, but I will not leave this flat. And you wouldn't. It's ridiculous. You wouldn't have let it go on for that long. It only happened so that the book could carry on. It's so stupid. And then we're supposed to believe that the one person who decides to try and connect with him also turns out to be a sociopath and a rapist, obviously, because that's what every single male in the US is, aren't they? And then she does some, you know, I can see the thing she was going for with the idea that friendship is as valid a relationship as a sexual one, but then she completely disregarded it when she made Willem want to sleep with Jude, which was really obvious and predictable. I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Jude is going to want to sleep with him, and then they're going to be in a relationship together, and then something really bad is going to happen to Willem and he's going to die, because obviously Jude's been through enough, so let's, you know, kill the person he loves the most. And then JB's going to try and get off with him, and then he's going to kill himself. And that's exactly what happened. It was so obvious, like that whole, oh, it was ridiculous. So we're supposed to believe all of this crap has happened. We're supposed to believe that all of the people who really love him kept letting it slide and just kept leaving him to do his shit. And then at the end, where she does, you know, she does, the thing is, the things she decides to tackle to do with friendship and to do with what the body can withstand in terms of physically what a body can live through, and also in terms of does somebody deserve the right to choose their own death if they've just been through too much, they're all interesting themes. And if they'd have been done well, I'm sure I would have loved this book. But they were done so poorly. By the time it got to the end, I thought, just let him die. Because he's been through enough, and you've all been dickheads, and you've all let this happen for years. Like, fucking hell. Just let him die. Like, you know, even if I love this book, I would still be of that opinion, because it was his right to choose the way he went. So to wrap it up, I thought it was very poorly written. I thought the character development was really bad. I thought the story was melodramatic and overwrought and offensive and vulgar and unbelievable. I thought it was too long and there was loads of stuff we didn't need to know. We don't need to know all the lawsuits he's doing. We don't need to know all his random friends' jobs. We don't need to know all these random stupid things about all the films that Willem has been in. We don't. And also I just thought it was entirely predictable, so that always annoys me with the novel. So that is my review and discussion, essentially a rant about A Little Life. Please let me know your thoughts. If you agreed with me, it'd be interesting to know, because I think very few people do. And obviously if you disagree, I'm more than willing to discuss it. I'm sure you won't change my mind, but obviously I'm still open for a discussion. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for getting this far through, you know, the very bitchy nature of this video. But I feel like if this book was less well known or less well loved, I wouldn't have gone this far. But I think that because it has so many people loving it, one person's voice isn't going to have a really bad effect on the sales of it, so I don't really feel bad because it's doing well enough that my opinion's not going to make any difference. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Hopefully the next review will be of a book I actually enjoyed. Bye guys.